All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most important and, let's be honest, sometimes controversial corners of the entire crypto universe. We are going on a quest for something that sounds so simple but is actually incredibly hard to get right, a stable digital dollar.
So if you've ever glanced at a Bitcoin or an Ethereum chart, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The prices they rocket up and then they plummet down. Now that's thrilling if you're a trader for sure, but for everyday stuff, like buying a cup of coffee or getting your paycheck, it's kind of terrible. You have no idea what your money's going to be worth in the next hour, let alone the next day. So the big question is, how do you fix this chaos?
And that's where the hero of our story comes in, the stablecoin. The whole idea is to create a digital token that actually holds a steady value, usually pegged one-to-one with a real-world currency like the US dollar. You can think of it as the stable bridge between the Wild West of crypto and the traditional financial system. But as you're about to see, there is more than one way to build that bridge. Okay, so our quest starts with the most common and, frankly, the easiest design to wrap your head around, the fiat-backed stablecoin. This is really the most direct route anyone's found to creating a digital dollar. So how does something like USDC actually work? Well, the best way to think about it is as a digital claim check. It's that simple. For every single one of those tokens that exist out there on the blockchain, the company that made it is promising you that there is one real US dollar sitting safely in a regular old-fashioned bank account. And the process? It's actually super straightforward. You go to an issuer, like Circle, and you give them one US dollar. They then mint, which is just a fancy word for create, one USDC token and send it right to your digital wallet. And whenever you want your dollar back, you just send them the token, they burn it or destroy it, and boom, they transfer the dollar right back to your bank. It's a really clean, centralized loop. But that simplicity? It points directly to the biggest risk here. This model isn't built on some complex, decentralized code. It's built on one simple thing: trust. You have to trust that the company really has all those dollars. You have to trust that their reserves are managed correctly. And you have to trust that their audits are telling the whole truth. If that trust ever breaks, the entire system can just fall apart.
Okay, but what if you don't want to trust a central company? What if the whole point of crypto for you is to get away from that? Well, that question leads us to the next chapter in our quest: the crypto world's attempt to build a stablecoin using only its own native tools. Code and other cryptocurrencies. This is the path to the bankless dollar.
Now, to understand this, you need to get one key concept: over-collateralization. Basically, to get your hands on, say, $100 of a crypto-backed stablecoin like DAI, you don't just put in $100 of another crypto. Because that other crypto, like Ethereum, is volatile, you have to lock up more than it's worth. So you might lock up $150 of ETH. And that extra $50, that's your safety cushion.
Just think of it like a totally decentralized pawn shop. You take your valuable asset, your Ethereum, and you lock it in this digital vault, which is really just a smart contract. The system then lets you take out a loan against it, and that loan is paid out in stablecoins. Meanwhile, these things called oracles, which are kind of like data messengers for the blockchain, are constantly watching the price of your locked-up ETH. If its value drops too low and starts to eat into that safety cushion, the system automatically sells your collateral to pay back the loan and keep the whole stablecoin system healthy.
And now, we enter the most ambitious and by far the most dangerous chapter in our quest. What if you could create a stablecoin with no real-world dollars and no crypto collateral at all? What if you could somehow build it with nothing but pure code?
And right here, this is the fundamental difference. All the coins we've talked about so far have something tangible backing them up. Either real cash in a vault or crypto locked in a contract. Algorithmic stablecoins, they're backed by, well, an algorithm. The idea is to maintain that $1 peg by just using code to automatically expand and contract a money supply, basically relying on traders to do the dirty work of keeping the price stable. And the spectacular collapse of Terra and USD showed us exactly what happens when that delicate dance falls apart. All it took was the UST stablecoin dipping just a little bit below $1. That created a crisis of confidence. People panicked and rushed for the exits. The system's own code forced it to print literally trillions of its partner token, Luna, to try and absorb all the selling. But that just hyperinflated Luna, crashing its price to effectively zero and taking the stablecoin right down with it in one of the most catastrophic failures crypto has ever seen. And this quote from our source material just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the fatal flaw. These systems are totally dependent on people being willing to step in and fix the price. But when the panic started, those people either ran for the hills or were just completely overwhelmed.
With no real assets to fall back on, there was nothing to stop the death spiral. It was basically a ghost built of code, and then it just vanished.
So after a collapse like that, you can bet designers went straight back to the drawing board. And that brings us to our final chapter, a new, more flexible approach that tries to take the best bits of the other models while hopefully managing their risks a little better.
So this is the big question that's driving a new generation of stablecoins, like GHO from the Aave protocol. Instead of just committing to one way of doing things, only fiat or only one kind of crypto, what if you could build a single system that supports many different kinds of backing all at the same time?
The key innovation here is this new concept called facilitators. The easiest way to think about it is to imagine the stablecoin's central governance, the AV DAO, as a kind of power strip. It can grant different entities permission to plug in and mint the stablecoin. And each one of those plugs, each facilitator, has a set limit on how much it can create, which they call its bucket capacity.
And this is what that actually looks like in practice. You can have one facilitator, one plug on the power strip. That's Aave's own lending protocol minting the stablecoin against crypto collateral, just like we saw with DAI. But then, another plug could be a company that mints the same stablecoin but backs it with tokenized real-world assets like treasury bills, and in the future the governance can vote to add even more types of facilitators. The goal is to create a really diverse, modular, and hopefully more resilient backing for the stablecoin.
So, after this whole quest, where does that leave us? What have we learned? Well, the biggest takeaway is that there's no single perfect design. It seems every single approach involves making trade-offs between how centralized it is, how efficiently it uses capital, and how secure it is. It's what you might call a stability trilemma. And this table right here, it just sums the whole thing up beautifully. You've got your fiat-backed coins like USDC, super simple, but you're betting the company won't fail. You've got crypto-backed coins like DAI, way more decentralized, but you have to worry about bugs in the code. Then you have the algorithmic experiments like Terra, which we saw can end in a complete loss of faith. And finally, these new facilitator models like GHO, which promise diversity, but now you have to worry about governance decisions and the risk of each individual facilitator. So yeah, this quest for the perfect digital dollar is clearly far from over. We've seen designs built on pure trust, on over-collateralized code, on pure faith, and now on this idea of modular flexibility. Every single one comes with its own promise and its own unique peril. So at the end of the day, the real question isn't if we'll have a digital dollar, but what trade-offs we're all willing to accept to get there. The next chapter is still unwritten. Thanks for joining The Explainer.